the same script in every interview, using complicated terms to cause confusion about her actual time served. In this next clip, watch how the interviewer literally has to force this information out of her.
Which means an additional year in custody.
How long did you spend in prison for this? Well, you got there, you were in jail first, you made a plea deal, well, they gave you 5 years, you had to do a third of your 5 years.
I had to do 50% of my case. So some people get a third, some people do 50%. Since mine was a little bit more serious, I did 50% of my time.
Okay, so
the rest on parole.
So you went to prison 2 months later, you had your daughter, then what, 2.5 years later, they let you out?
I served a total of 2%. Since mine was a little bit more serious, I did 50% of my time.
Okay, so
the rest on parole.
So you went to prison 2 months later, you had your daughter, then what, 2.5 years later, they let you out?
I served a total of 2.5 years.
Finally, sheesh. Why was it really that fucking hard to just be honest?
In the spot, we have Jessica. In the first spot.
Wow. My convictions are possession with intent, delivery of meth, and simultaneous possession of drugs and a firearm. And I was sentenced to 5 years in Arkansas, but I also served some other time because I was a drug addict, so I have criminal sales of a controlled substance and assault as well.
That dude looks like he'd be a great accountant. I look like I could probably break into your house or like roll a blunt or something, you know? Like, I'm cool, my bad. Retired, I'm not breaking the law.
I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains that last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Never have I ever fought an inmate. Really?
I have never.
You've never fought an inmate?
I did not.
And then youth probation led to felony adult probation because my first real charge was criminal possession of a controlled substance, criminal sales of a controlled substance. I sold pills to a kid that I went to school with. He overdosed, he survived, and then ended up getting a restraining order on me because I may have threatened his life for snitching. And then in Arkansas, in McPherson prison, 6:30 or 7, whatever time shift change was, I can't really remember, they would come in everyone's cell and take their mattress from them every single day. So you could not sleep all day. In Arkansas jails, in prison, I realized people will snitch on their own mom to get out. Tweakers are crazy and they will snitch so fast. I had people in my motion discovery also that I did not know. People that said I sold them drugs and I didn't. So going anywhere. The only people that can really move around the jail are people that are trusted to be a trustee, which you think your girl contraband queen over here was ever gonna get a trustee job? No, absolutely not. Never gonna happen, ever. Even when I asked, they laughed at me. So the father of my child is still in prison. He will either get out spring of this year coming up, so next year, or the year after. Arkansas does this thing called EPAs where people get out up to a year early. No woman will ever get out up to a year early. The men, yes, they will. And the reason for that is overcrowding. Now, to get back on track with my last day, I was released from a program barracks. I was also released on an EPA. Now in Arkansas, that means that it's overcrowded and you're gonna get released out early. Men typically get released a lot earlier than women because the male prisons are more crowded than the female prisons. However, that is starting to change. But when I was there 5 years ago, you could get out on an EPA if you were a female, but it would be like a week or two. Like you're not getting a ton of time. I have seen men get released 8 months early, 9 months early, 10 months early. So I did hit the EPA, but I was only gonna get out 2 weeks early. So New York State parole was just very difficult for me, and I did end up violating a lot, and like I said, I maxed out that. So
as you can see in the introduction, Jessica has shared some life situations, but today we're gonna call them stories, because from what I have found, that's what they are, stories. A work of made up fictional stories, possibly based on true events, but most likely based on other people's real life traumas. Either way, what I'm about to show you throughout this video is not going to back up her claims that these are real life situations that she's lived through. As a matter of fact, they do quite the opposite and paint Jessica Kent in a way different light. Instead of that beautiful journey from childhood, a rough childhood, to teen addict, to adult felon, all turned around to a loving mom of 2 beautiful girls who graduated college and, is overcoming all of these obstacles in life and spent all of this time building this empire in the prison and recovery communities with 10 years sober. Whatever that means to you, it means. And I want to make it very clear, none of what I am doing or saying is abuse of Jessica. I am not in any way, shape, or form abusing Jessica. I am simply showing the facts to the things that she has claimed over all of these years. Jessica herself said it. She accepts the challenge. Go digging. Paperwork is king. So that's what I did, and that's what I am doing. And today, I'm going to be showing every single receipt for everything that I have said for the past month about. Day in and day out, I have been working my ass off to make sure that I had the facts with paperwork to back it up, to prove just who Jessica Kent is. And it's time for all of it to be revealed. Every receipt. So let's go back all the way to the beginning, where Jessica says that everything started. Her teen years. So buckle up, sit back, grab a drink, grab a snack, grab dinner, grab a whole ass meal, because this is going to be a long, bumpy ride, and you may even need a puke bucket because it's about to get real quick, and you may end up a little seasick. My name is Tracie, and please, if you would consider and you like the content, make sure to hit the like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, share this out, and I ask that please consider to support the channel. You can do this by joining my Patreon, where subscriptions start at just $5. And if that's not something that you are interested in doing, but you still want to help, my Cash App will be linked in the description box down below. So I said all of that to say this. It's paperwork day. And in the words of Drip God themselves, we got you, Jess. It's paperwork day for you too. Enjoy the video.
All throughout my teenage years, things got worse. I got in more fights. I got in more trouble. I got arrested. I was arrested for underage drinking and brought home. I was arrested for curfew violations because I was on PINS probation, and then youth probation, and then adult probation, and then parole. I was always getting in trouble for something, whether it was fighting or using drugs. I was using drugs very young. Prior to my drug use, I moved around a lot. I had a very unstable childhood. I would go all over New York. I transferred schools so much, sometimes 2-3 times a year, because we were getting evicted. I grew up very in life that we were poor. And I thought the worst thing that you could ever be was poor. I know I've said that a million times, but we bounced around a lot, and I was severely bullied to the point where I hated school so much that I would be absent a lot. You know, I grew up like that. I grew up not having friends, not having an outlet, and always being afraid that I would come home from school and the house would be in boxes. My childhood honestly wasn't even a childhood.
Okay, you heard Jessica. She had no friends. She was severely bullied. She bounced school to school. And her life as a kid was miserable. Well, that isn't exactly the case. According to New York Public Schools, Jessica's only ever attended 2 schools through elementary, middle, and high school. Hancock for elementary and middle, and then Sydney for high school. Now, another thing that I picked up on in amongst all of Jessica's videos where she tells her story of being, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, is that sometimes she mixes things up. Sometimes her story is that she had friends in Hancock and she was mad that she had to move and go to Sydney. She was getting in trouble and her mom couldn't handle her, so she sent her to her dad's, where she was severely bullied in Sydney. Other versions, she was severely bullied in Hancock, got in trouble, and made a friend there before she left. And then other version, she goes to detention in Sydney and makes a friend, and that friend gets her in trouble there. So it doesn't add up. Her stories are always different in little ways, but you catch them and then you realize, well, that's not what happened in the version before. I'll let you see that for yourself. But let's go through this, 12, 13, 14-year-old era of Jessica, and I'll show you the messages from the friends, that one from her middle school and high school, and then one from high school. These friends kind of tell a different story of who Jessica was. Not one of a severely bullied kid, that's for sure. But let's get into it. I'll see you guys on the other side.
We had moved about 40 minutes away, and then for some reason moved back. So we moved back to that town. So I was bouncing around from school to school. So I went back to that school, which I actually showed you in my hometown tour video. It's the first scene where I'm in front of that big school. That's the school that I went to. So when we moved back to that town, it was a couple of years later, 2 or 3 years later, so I was like 12, almost 13. But this is my life story, and I'm sharing it with you so that maybe we can shed light on how not to go about fixing poverty. I, again, had no friends, and we moved around a lot, right? So I know, and I just didn't answer the phone. Yeah. I hold grudges. I didn't want to move because I had friends, and I liked living in the area that I was living in with her. And I was in a really bad mood that day, and I got sent to detention. In detention, I met a girl, and she invited me over to her house. And I started to get a little bit older, and I started to fight back when people would bully me. So I remember one time specifically, I was in a history class, and I remember really liking this history teacher, and I looked forward to going to that class. I had a pixie-like haircut, a very tomboy haircut. I didn't wear name brand clothes or name brand shoes, and I didn't have braces, and I didn't play sports, and I didn't have friends. I was that loner kid in the corner. And I had said something to answer a teacher's question, and all of the kids started to pick on me and laugh at me and bully me. And I remember being so mad. I took one of my books and I threw that at a girl, and I got in trouble, of course, because you can't throw books at people's head. I was also 13 and I had no friends, and I was bullied so badly at my new school in my dad's district, and I was just miserable, and I blamed her for a lot of that, so I didn't talk to her for like a year and a half. So one day I went to a house party. It was probably my 74th party, I don't know. And there was a lockbox upstairs, my friend said, and she told me to go up there and steal it. I was super confused as to why she would ask me to steal, but I said okay because she was my only friend. So I ran upstairs, I took the lockbox, and I ran away. That was a really bad idea. And the guy that I stole from told a bunch of people about it, and he wanted me to get beat up. So he had not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 girls come look for me. And they were all older than me. There we go, 5. And when they found me, they jumped me. I was hurt really bad. So I had to get taken to the hospital. And a doctor prescribed me my very first opiate prescription for the pain. He told me if I take that, my pain would decrease and I would be okay. I had no idea how opiates affected the brain.
Jessica actually does tell the truth in these videos. The thing is that she's just sprinkling a little truth in amongst a lot of lies. You see that she didn't go to 2 to 3 schools per year like she says. She was in 2 schools, period. So going forward, Jessica says that at 13 she moves in with her dad because she was getting in trouble. Now, that story varies a lot. You'll hear her say here or there, it's back and forth. Either she got in trouble at Hancock, but then she got in trouble at Sydney. There's no real clear picture. you know, she talks to her dad and her stepmom in one video, and she says that she was sent there because she was getting in trouble. And the stepmom was like, well, we didn't know that. So nobody told them that she was coming there because she was getting into trouble. I just find these interactions really interesting because Jessica will talk about certain things, but she never brings up things that you think she would, like getting jumped. She talks about how she would get into fights, but her mother says she never saw any bruises. Her dad and stepmom say basically the same thing, that they never seen these things. They didn't actually find out until later after Jessica told them. So that I find to be amazing. As somebody with a 13-year-old daughter and a 22-year-old daughter who I've raised through teenage years, I can't imagine not noticing black and blue bruises on their faces, badly beaten. Even if she was running off, and doing these things. So her stories never add up. So what I'm going to show you guys next is facts. These are records from Jessica's state. She lived in New York at the time. She lived in Delaware County. She went from Hancock to Sydney. I'm going to play through and you will see my responses, the answers that I received from these areas. You're also going to see the additional messages from friends that she had at this time. Now we're going to move into, at 16, she says she copped her first felony. At this time, she was getting in trouble for drinking. She was on PINS probation. Now, PINS probation in New York is person in need of supervision. This is like a youth offender program. If you get in trouble, you don't go to jail. There is no jail. What they do is they take you from the home and put you with another family member or somebody else who can supervise you better. But you do have a probation officer. She would be subjected to urine screens. But something else that I find in these videos is that Jessica talks a lot about getting parole violations and probation violations for failing drug tests. But if you watch in her video with her dad and stepmom, they say, we didn't know how you were passing, because she was passing all of her drug tests. And she says, well, I learned to clean my urine. All of this really makes me question, did Jessica actually even have an addiction when she was younger? Now, addiction's addiction. I'm not going to say that I believe she was an addict when she got older, but I certainly am questioning whether or not Jessica was not just the average teenager who was getting into trouble. Not all teenagers do that, but a lot do. I know I did. I was, drinking. I had a child at 17. I was out smoking weed and doing all these things too. But I didn't consider myself to be a drug dealer, and something that I'm not finding any support for, even in her own videos with family, with others, is that Jessica was an actual addict or even a drug dealer in her teenage years. Not to the level she makes it out to be. So yeah, let's roll through that. I will pop in and you'll hear me, chime in and say some things, but we're going to roll through Jessica at 16, 17, 18, because at 18, see, Jessica goes and says that she gets her first felony at 16. She's in and out of probation and, violating, getting put in jail, which she would not have been put in jail for anything under 18. That's not how they work. She does say that she gets these violations. Well, according to the state of New York, that wouldn't have happened. So I'm going to show you that. You'll see what exactly I think that means. At the end of what I'm about to show you, I will tell you additional information for that. So I will see you guys on the other side.
I really liked my dad's house because he had a pool in the backyard, and summers were kind of hot in upstate New York. Not as hot as Florida, but you know what I'm saying. It's always nice to swim in the summer, so I liked it there. My mom kept getting more and more worried about my friends and partying and how aggressive I had become as a very young teenager. But I loved my friends because they were the only friends that I ever had. Well, my mom decided I would go move in with my dad to get away from them, and I was very sad that I had to say goodbye to the only friends I had ever had in my life. But I moved in with my dad, and he lived in Sydney. I was in 7th grade, repeating 7th grade because I wouldn't go to school, and I got bullied all over again for my clothes and my hair and being weird, apparently. But weird is cool. Don't listen to bullies. I decided I would skip school and go to other people's houses and drink Jack Daniels. And I would smoke weed. At 14, I got in trouble for underage drinking and skipping school. I hated it so much there. I got put on pins probation. That's my anklet. Not fun. I got drug tested all the time.
Yeah.
So I just turned 13 and I was living with my mom before that, and I got in a lot of trouble, and my mom just really couldn't handle it anymore, so she's like, take her. Oh my god, I can't do it. So they said yes, and I don't even know if I could do that, because taking on a 13-year-old that already is in trouble, cops are bringing her home, she's partying at 13, I don't know if I could handle it. So what was I like at 13 years old?
I didn't know that at the time.
She didn't tell you all of it?
No.
My mom lied.
No, we were not told that you were in all that trouble.
God, I didn't know that.
No.
I'm learning.
So we just brought you in, and seemed pretty normal at first when you got,
Seemed normal.
but then it just, a little bit, yeah.
So I was normal at first.
Yeah, I think you were trying to, kind of impress us a little bit at first. Yeah.
You know? So what was the first moment where you kind of knew something was wrong? You knew I was using drugs or had the wrong friends? Or what was the first sign for you?
That's kind of hard to answer. I think maybe the first time that I knew something was really wrong was when you first had that tooth problem, and I got you some medication for the pain, and the pills just kind of came up missing.
Yeah.
And then
hydrocodone?
Yeah. And then I just I was really skeptical after that. I really kind of put my guard, I put my feelers out much more. Like watching, kind of keeping an eye on you a lot more than I did. I took you to paroles. I went and grabbed you from Walton several times.
Because I would leave.
Because you wouldn't tell me where you were. You'd never show back up. Like, you'd leave. You're supposed to be home at a certain time because of that parole. Mm-hmm. I never saw, you wouldn't show up. So I had to make phone calls, find out where you were. So I don't know how I knew you were in Walton. Someone must have called me and let me know, because off to Walton I would go and get you, because
someone ratted me out.
There were, that environment over there, the places I picked you up from, very, very,
very sketch.
Bad.
Very sketchy.
Okay, so you hear Jessica's mom say that she has to go pick her up from Walton. This is Walton, New York. She's in New York, or in this area of New York, because she is running off with Joe Kent at the time. Jessica is now 16. In this report on the screen, I'll leave these up and you can pause them to read them. Jim, her dad, reported that his 16-year-old daughter Jessica hasn't been seen since 2 or 3 p.m. this afternoon. Apparently Jessica has been hanging around with Joe Kent, a 21-year-old male from Walton. So they were sending the police up there to find her, and they were looking to press charges against Joe Kent for endangering the welfare of a child. This is what they are talking about in this point. I'm going to leave these up on the screen and you will be able to flip through them. These are the missing persons reports that her parents were filing against for Jessica. In one, Jessica actually says if they don't leave Joe out of it, basically, then she's going to make their life a living hell. And she does just that.
I mean, I would probably fall to pieces if he yelled at me. And he never did. He never did. And
there was one time I did yell at you and came up the stairs. I don't know what it was about. And
me being an asshole?
I kicked the door open.
Yeah, he does remember.
That's one thing I can remember.
Yeah, see,
I was upset about something.
I told you. he ran after you.
I did run after you, yeah.
You closed the door.
And I was so
and slammed
pissed.
it in his face, and he was so mad. He like kind of kicked the door in, and it broke the wood along the door.
And I got in trouble from that.
Strong he was.
I got in trouble by somebody, I don't know who.
Me.
By you and yeah.
And somebody might have.
Pearl, maybe.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, you probably.
Okay, so you just heard them talking about an incident where her dad and her got into a fight. You're gonna see on this incident report where it's a domestic dispute report. So these are the things that were happening in the house. Jessica was being a pain in the ass. Jessica was being a out of control teen. At the time, she's on PIN's probation. It says that right here in the police report. You can see that. And I find it interesting that none of these things that are major, points of all of her other videos that she talks about being a teenager come up in any of these videos where people could acknowledge and verify them. Something else that I'm going to point out right now is that on these police reports, her date of birth is wrong. The year, it says 1990. She was born in 1989. So Jessica was actually 17 when all of this was happening. So where did all of the felony charges come up at this point? If these charges were to have happened, why are there no records of them? You're going to see in these next, videos I'm going to show you and images that there are absolutely no records for any felony charges for Jessica Tomeo, Jessica Kent, all of these, every variation of her name. There are no other charges, including from the state of New York, villages, counties, towns, nothing. So Jessica says that at 16 she got into this trouble. Why is that not reported on? If that had happened, there would be a report for it. I understand she was underage, but it would have rolled over to over 18 at the time. Jessica would have had an adult record for these things that happened at 16 and 17 years old, had they actually happened.
At 16, I got arrested again. I made money from selling pills to a kid that was my age. That was my first felony, and I got put on felony probation. I was in jail for a short time, but then I got to go home to my dad's. I got in a really bad fight with my stepmom and dad when I was 18, and I moved out.
Okay, so you're seeing on the screen here, these are New York parole, probation, and inmate records. These are available to anybody. I'm showing you Randy's on the screen here because this is from the same time frame, so you can see how accurate these are. Some even go back even to 2003, so these are pretty accurate records. And I'm going to show you as soon as these go through what happens when you search for Jessica. This is very accurate records. If you're in the system, if you've ever been an inmate in New York, anywhere in New York, if you are ever on probation or parole at any point in time over the age of 18, you would be in here.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't
don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains that last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah. Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Gonna learn the consequence of being incompetent. Mental health is confidence, dreams into modestness.
At 16, I got arrested. That was my first felony, and I got put on felony probation. I was in jail for a short time, but then I got to go home. First violation of parole was 30 days, then 60 days times 2. I got 2 of those violations, and then finally they had enough with me and gave me 180 days, and I maxed out my parole, which means I was no longer on parole.
So did I fail drug tests on parole?
Absolutely not. And I never knew how you were able to pass them because, you know, when they came to the house, you were ready for them, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you passed them every single time. Even when we went to parole up in Delhi, you passed those too. And I'm like,
so that made my dad think,
she's not so bad.
Yeah, she's fine. She's
sober.
fine.
Even I was like, oh well,
So, you know, maybe I'm crazy.
maybe she's not so bad, but
I was. So what I would do is I would drink gallons of water, green tea, take vitamins, and I would detox my system. And I knew pills only stayed in my system for a day or two. It was weed that was harder for me to flush out of my system. But the house across the street from my parents' house was periodically empty, and I would hide.
Okay, so that's a big part of Jessica's teenage, you know, up till 18, 19 years old. Nothing. There is absolutely no record of Jessica ever serving a single day in a county jail, a prison, a village, whatever. She didn't spend a single day incarcerated anywhere in the state of New York. Delaware County, the county that she's lived in her whole life, told me no record, no inmate records, nothing. And if she had been underage, she would not have been put into a jail. They told me that as well. I contacted their community corrections program. The woman wouldn't let me record her. She said that PIN's program does not put kids in jail, even if they fail a drug test, which you heard Jessica yourself say she never failed a drug test. But when you see this, it's got to make you question what would be her motive for lying about ever spending a day in jail or prison in New York. Drip God did some awesome videos, but the only issue is this, that he's taking her word for it with those mugshots. Well, those mugshots are from other arrests. Her Arkansas arrests, and maybe even one in Texas, but not one single mugshot is from New York. She has used those mugshots in multiple videos for different things. Sometimes she says there are parole violations in New York. Sometimes she says they're from Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, all these places that she's never even been arrested in. But they all are from jail, bonding out, coming back in, going to prison, and in her prison photos. So those mugshots do not connect to New York at all. Jessica never served a day in any facility in New York, period. There was a lot more that I could have added in here as far as clips of Jessica that contradicts herself, but I figured just make this easier. make it simple and clean. I showed you a couple things where she said certain things for context, but I'm just making it as clear as I possibly can. Now, I did have a lot of FOIA requests where they just talked to me on the phone. I didn't have to send in a letter. I didn't have to send in anything. They would pull the records right up on the phone for me. Police departments, there was a gentleman, I believe it's Delaware County, he did it right over the phone. The courts down that way did them. And yeah, so nothing. Not a single record. What does that tell you? If she'll lie about that with all of these fantastical stories about being in prison and jail in New York, what does that tell you? Okay, so like I said, I'm trying to keep this as clean as possible. Just put everything out here for you. You guys seen the, reports and stuff from back then. I am going to put on the screen the reports that she did get. She did get into trouble for, well, not in trouble. She was accused of stealing money from somebody. She stole a cab ride, which she said was from running from her drug dealer or something at one time. There's a couple reports. I'm going to roll through them after this, let you see those. What else? As for before she goes to Arkansas. Now, there is some timing things with Arkansas, so we'll get into that. But I am going to go ahead and put these reports where she did do, these things, and the reports from the robbery with Randy. She was looked at as a conspirator, and even she was a lot with Randy. We're not going to get into that right now. That is going to be in the area where we go over the relationships, because there will be a comparison, thing going on there. So yeah, let's go over that stuff real quick. Then we're going to go into Arkansas, that situation, the stuff I have from that. That's pretty interesting. Her prison time down there and the things that don't make sense or add up with that. And all of the documents I have from all of that. So let's get into that here in just a minute. Until then, I will play these through, and I will see you guys in just a minute.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. Yeah. There's no mercy in this world, just hunger-thirsty persons in different versions. Each new update, that shit worsens. Each new update, that shit worsens. Why? Pull back the curtain and you'll see the different vermin. We all have different burdens that all seem to cause disturbance. Yo, so do me a favor, don't treat me like a neighbor. Don't need the different flavors of your problems just to savor. I've got my own issues, I need a comb to get through. Don't need to groan with you, just go get your own tissue. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. That's it, the end of the song. Next time you'll sing along. Trust me, there's nothing wrong. I just need to carry on, cause society's a myth put there to make you sit. Listen to what they give. Don't ask questions, shut your lid. Yeah, don't ask questions. this is such a lid. I need to run away from this and go get off the grid. Feel like my brain is overloaded, man, I'm losing it. Don't let them tell you what to do, man, they don't know shit.
Okay, so you just seen what little there is actually out there of Jessica's, time in New York. There are no assault charges, no, criminal sales of controlled substance charges, none of that. No jail time, no probation or parole time, none at least that would get her put into jail for anything. I mean, it goes without saying at this point, really. I want to show you a clip from a video that Jessica did with her mom. In this clip, she's asking her mom questions that some of her subscribers sent in. One of them was, when did you know that Jessica was starting to get into trouble? I'm just going to tell you to pay attention to the cuts in the video. It seems very much like her mom wasn't going towards 13 years old, like Jessica says. And her mom even makes the comment, I think you told me when she started using. Just pay attention. It's very interesting. And then she shows a picture of her when she was 19, which she has in another video where she says she was 19 because she was on Magazine Crew. Yeah, it's just an interesting video. And so I want you to see that real quick. And then we're going to go over the things that Jessica was doing. We'll kind of wrap it all up for her, time in New York. And then we'll be moving on to when she leaves for Arkansas, what's happening around that time, and then what happens in Arkansas. That is a pretty interesting section of her life, to say the least. And I think you will all be very shocked when you hear the things that are factual about her time in Arkansas. So let's watch this clip real quick, and I'll be right back with you.
When did you know Jess was starting to get into trouble?
That was pretty much early on, but I don't think you were using H then. I think you were still experimenting with the alcohol and the green, for lack of a better way to word it.
The devil's lettuce.
Yeah, the devil's lettuce.
Why do they call it that?
I don't know why they called it that.
Weird. Okay, so yeah, sorry to interrupt you. Alcohol?
You're good. So I feared more. I didn't realize, it took a long time before I actually realized, oh my God, she's doing the H. And then when I was informed, I think, was it you that told me? I forget, but anyway.
I doubt it.
A drug is a drug is a drug. That's my mindset even today. But still, it scared me. It really did.
So when did you notice? It was with alcohol?
I noticed it most with the alcohol. Again, I've never touched H, so I don't know didn't know at that time what symptoms to use. I've since been educated a lot on that, so I know what to look for.
What age was I when you noticed?
You were very young. You were 13, very young.
We stan Mama Kent.
Mama Kent.
Mama Kent. Can you talk about like fights that I would get in?
I wasn't there when you got into a lot of the physical altercations, but your attitude, I knew you got into a lot.
Yeah. So what was my attitude like as a teenager?
I felt like you were, I don't want to say this, but at the same time.
Say it.
Holier than thou, kind of. Oh, sorry.
No, I want you to say exactly how I was.
But you were very pretty, which I knew.
It's not pretty.
Well, I'm Mom, so I say you were beautiful, and you still are.
Continue.
At any rate, but I would never see you come home, per se, with, like, bruises or anything, unless you hid them, and if you did that, you hid them well, because I never saw a lot of you bruises.
From fights?
From fights, yeah.
I really put them through a lot of stuff as a teenager, so it was really tense in my household for months on end. My parents were fighting because I either wasn't going to school when I said I was going to school, or I was drinking, partying, sneaking out, selling drugs. I had an apartment that I had kept secret from them. All of this stuff was just so stressful, and we had parole officers come into the house. I would have people stop me in the grocery store with my parents and ask me for drugs. I kid you not. Did you ever buy her anything with drug money?
I think you did, but I don't remember what those items were.
Any and everything from the age of 13 to 23 was drug money. You know, I didn't go from going to a couple of parties as a teenager, as a 13-year-old, drinking a little bit here and there, to slamming heroin. That came later. And I okayed it in my brain. I said, you can't drink alcohol, just find a pill. Take a pill, it's fine. No one can smell a pill. No one's gonna know that you're on a pill, and it has the same effect. All throughout my teenage years, things got worse. I got in more fights. I got in more trouble. I got arrested. I was arrested for underage drinking and brought home. I was arrested for curfew violations because I was on PINS probation, and then youth probation, and then adult probation, and then parole. I was always getting in trouble for something, whether it was fighting or using drugs. Actually, you guys always want to hear stories, and I was recently reminded of a story the other day when I was reading this article about Narcan, which is something we talk all the time about on my channel, and I was just reading through it, and one line like stuck out to me about how the words we say can come right back at us, and it was just like boom, like flashback to my old life. I was reminded of this story and how I learned years later that that was going to be my fate. So we're going to dive into that. Also, please keep in mind, that was me 12 years ago. I am not that person. I am nowhere near that person. I have grown and changed and became a person I actually like. The person that I'm going to tell you about today was an addict, was evil, was dark, didn't understand compassion, and thought she knew everything. Long time ago, I would party, and I was always the life of the party. I was like the Chris Farley effect. Like, if we're gonna party, we're gonna have a good time, and I'm gonna make sure everyone's having a good time. If you're not having a good time, you can't be here. Like, that's the kind of person I was. So in this particular moment, I was living with my sister, her and I shared an apartment, and I just got back from vacation. Now, I went to Virginia, got jet skis, went clubbing, met this really cool band that I'm still friends with on Instagram, and I just had a good time. I bought my friend an $800 watch. I made sure everyone was having a good time on my dime, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to party, we're here to tear it up, we're here to have a good time. We're here to shut this bee down. Like, that's my mentality, right? So I get back to my hometown, and everyone knew that I was a dealer. And I heard a little knock at my door. I'm still trying to unpack. I'm sitting there counting money, like seeing how much I spent, blah, blah, blah. I was better than everyone in every room I ever stepped into, because I was Jessica. I was in control. I knew me. I knew what I was doing. So even when I went to prison, even when I went to jail, I was better than you. And I would get mad if you told me I was a snotty, uptight, snotty little girl that thinks she's better. I would get really mad because I'm not that person. I do things to help people. So I'm not that person. I'm not snobby. You just don't know me. No, I totally was. I had that attitude that I was above the law, that I could do whatever I wanted to do, that I was better than everyone. And at the core of it, I was worse than most addicts. I will not talk to someone that is on drugs from my old life that knows me. I will definitely help someone that messages me, but you know what I'm saying. I live miles and miles and miles away from my hometown. I threw away the old phones, the phone numbers, everything. I was actually thinking back to the first time I got put inside of a cop car. You guys, I was 9 years old the first time I got arrested. Yeah. That happened. So I moved in with my dad and my stepmom, and I got put on PINS because I couldn't stay in school. I was ditching school. My stepmom knew I was drinking, knew I was smoking weed, or she was just kind of on to me. You're gonna hear that story later. But I was put on PINS. And then PINS probation led to youth probation, which I don't even remember why. I think maybe the PINS officer like couldn't keep up with me, and she realized I needed to actually go to the probation office with professionals, you know, but I'm not exactly sure if there was a charge there. I don't think so. I honestly think it was because I was so out of control. And then youth probation led to felony adult probation because my first real charge was criminal possession of a controlled substance, criminal sales of a controlled substance. I sold pills to a kid that I went to school with. He overdosed, he survived, and then ended up getting a restraining order on me because I may have threatened his life for snitching. So that's the kind of teenager I was. I was crazy. I was out of control. And that probation sentence, that felony probation sentence, led to many violations, which is originally why I went to jail. So I had violation after violation after violation. I couldn't pass drug tests. I couldn't stay where I was supposed to be. I absconded, did tons of things, had assault in there. So there was a lot of issues. So that led to a lot of problems for me. I've also beaten many charges. Beaten? Yeah, that's the right word, right? So I've successfully beaten several charges, possession charges, I beat an assault charge, and I beat conspiracy to commit armed robbery, false written statement, false police report, and grand larceny. I beat those felonies. And I just remember thinking,
the teenage bullshit
of
Jessica
guys?
Kent.
Welcome to today's video. As
We
you
are
can
going
tell
to
by the title,
stop
I have
here
a
in this
spicy
video
one for you
because
guys
I am
today.
at 50
I'm going to be
minutes
sharing a story time of my first ever jailhouse fight.
Few hours
which is
to
crazy.
upload
And
itself.
please bear in mind
So
that at this time
I'm going
in
to
my
have
life,
to
I was
upload
18 years
into
old,
parts.
not mentally
they are not
stable,
going to be
and just a very
weights
different
between
person.
them. I'm
This
just
video
going to upload and put them out. So we're going to do her teenage years in this one, 18, 19, 20, 23, and Arkansas all in the next one. And then, depending on how long that one ends up being, it may end up including the final part too. But if that one ends up, you know, cutting up to be as long as this one, there'll be a third part, which is the, you know, comparisons of relationships and the things that have gone on there. So yeah, let's see how the second half ends up timing wise. But yeah, there won't be a week wait or whatever. It will literally get put up. This one will go either tonight or in the morning, depending how long it will take to upload this. And then the other one I'll just start uploading right afterwards, and then they'll just fall in line and show up one after another. But yeah, that's it. As you can see, I mean, what was truth in any of this? From what I can tell, very, very little of her story times and all of that were ever true at all. Most of it was all just made up, and that doesn't stop. When she becomes an adult, it just gets a whole lot worse, actually. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I can't wait for you guys to see this next half. I want to let you guys take this in, and then the next part's a lot to take in of itself. So yep, I'm going to get this up for you guys, and then I will get the next part up right behind it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and you know, if you like the content you're getting, it's not going to stop here. These videos will come out, and then I am going to I'll keep everybody updated. I do still have more information coming in, and if there's anything that I get back that proves anything wrong or changes something, I'll put it up. I have no issue with that. You know, if something comes back and says, okay, she had a charge here or here, I'll share it. There is a charge that looks like some kind of civil thing, but I haven't gotten that back yet. So yeah, if I get anything back that changes something, I'll let you all know. But after these videos, it'll just mostly be updating on anything, and we will be moving on to our next journey after this. So I will see you guys in the next one, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you like the content, like I was saying, please hit the subscribe, the like, the share, comment, all those fun things. And you know, and Patreon is over there for, I think it starts at $5, and my Cash App will be linked down below. I thank you guys all so much for watching, and I appreciate you more than you have, more than you know. Thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening or your morning or whatever it may be.